We are talking about K through 12 education today and the role of human resources in building a great school. All this and more coming up on The Perfect Route. Welcome to the show and welcome, Mikayla Trinkley. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing so well. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you on the show. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Michaela?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Mikayla Trinkley, as you just stated, and I am the Human Resources Director at the Summit Country Day School in Cincinnati, Ohio. I am the mother of a toddler and three fur babies. My husband and I live in northern Kentucky, just right over the river. And I've been in this role for just over 4 years.
Fantastic. And some of you on the who listen to the podcast know that I'm up in Toledo, Ohio, so you're just down I-75 a few hours from me.
Yep, straight shot down.
Yep. Yep. Well, let's start at the beginning. What pulled you into the world of human resources?
Yeah, absolutely. I realized from a pretty early point in my young adulthood that I loved people and I love relationships with people and serving people in any capacity. So I actually went to school for hospitality management. And I did do my first career, as I call it, 10 years in hotel management and teams management, where I did everything from operation to general management of hotels. Um, and what I learned during that time is I loved spending time with my team and being a support for them, being a safe place for them, fostering what they wanted to get out of their workday, fostering what they wanted to get out of their time. And that kind of became my focal point during my time in hotel management. Um, that time did come to an end due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that was honestly kind of a good time for me to switch. I had been thinking about just the kind of career that I wanted to have over time. And that was kind of a natural point for me to move into the world of HR. Um, I kind of decided to lean in a little bit to um, serving my team in those spaces. And during the pandemic, I ended up getting a professional certification from Villanova University in HR management. And then I ended up getting my certified professional credential from the Society of Human Resources Management, better known as SHRM. And I kind of had to start a little bit at the beginning again. I moved into an HR coordination role. And then I did step into the summit role, and I've been here since, and I love it. I love everything about human resources, which probably sounds a little bit crazy to some people. Um, but that is how I've ended here. Or I guess I've just kind of started in this part of my journey, but that's how I got into this world. And I've really truly leaned into um, all the different facets of human resources as a component of an organization. So that's kind of a brief how I got my start here in this role.
That's great to hear. And I did some time in human resources as a learning and development executive. It was quite the education.
Yes, every day looks completely different, and every employee that you work with and that you interact with is at a different point in their career and they're at a different point in their personal life. They are at a different career or point in their learning path as well, with the learning and development piece of history you kind of have with your career. Everybody's at a different place. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it. And I think that's what also makes it challenging at times to kind of meet everybody where they're at can be um, a little bit of a stretch, but I lean into it. I really love that about it.
That's great. That's great. Um, could you share a recent initiative that you feel really captured the potential of HR inside your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I've thought about this a lot in preparation to kind of talk about it because the initiative that we went in on together, it combined a lot of different functions of our organization, but it really was for the betterment of our people, which I think is really important. Um, but shortly after I started here at the summit, um, we decided, and we kind of, as our senior leadership team, our stakeholders, our CFO, we decided that we wanted to develop a pay scale for our faculty. And traditionally in public schools, um, the union representation for the teachers negotiate the terms of a pay scale with the state, and it looks typically like, you know, this step for this year of experience and this step for this year of experience plus an advanced degree, for example. While we are not under any kind of collective bargaining, we still felt that based on employee data that we had kind of surveyed and gotten, that we felt it was important for a couple different reasons to move to this pay scale system. So we found a school also within our region that is a public school that is not tied to any kind of collective bargaining. So they were able to really share their process in developing a scale with us, and that partnership was lovely. Just from like the experience of working with another community school that was so willing to be helpful to us, that was lovely. And then also um, having kind of a guideline on how to start that work, because it's challenging and it's deep work that we did. But my CFO and I partnered on that together. She kind of did more of the numbers work, you know, working with the budgets. How are we going to get everybody onto this scale? It's a really large take, but we had decided that I would be kind of the point person for the people of the summit, to come and ask questions and answer survey questions about pay transparency and um, discussions around pay, and how is this scale going to be set up, and how is this going to increase our value prop for teachers to continue to attract the best talent, which is definitely a focus point for schools, especially now. And we put it together, and it was it was on a 3-year transition period. So we ended up taking everybody kind of where they were and then adjusting them individually to then kind of come to a point where this school year, 25-26, everybody was on the pay scale. Um, the pay equity concerns that we had been completely eliminated. Everybody was able to see just, you know, on a piece of paper or online, you know, where they are going to be. And I think it led us to a point where we have more buy-in, we have more engagement, and we've given our people and our faculty and kind of a reason to go and get different advanced degrees, or to pursue those continuing education journeys to kind of get that payout at the end. But just from a culture standpoint, having that pay scale has truly been um, a great positive outcome of that initiative. And it was a long time in the making, but our CFO is a really intelligent and strong woman, and she was able to partner with me pretty seamlessly on that, to make sure that it was communicated effectively, that we were being as transparent as possible through the process. I think there's two things you don't mess with in at work, and it's people's time and people's money. So I
Hmm.
wanted to make sure that when we are doing these initiatives, that we do follow a well communicated timeline with updates to let everyone know where we're at, and that they are aware of why we're doing these things. And really, the why is to continue to compensate our people fairly and equitably, and to also attract better talent in the market. And I think, based on our surveys from new hires and our continued survey and open communication with our faculty, we were able to achieve that as a goal. So it was a heck of an initiative, but we definitely got it done over that course of 3 years, and we're in a much better place because of that, I would say.
A 3-year project, and that's amazing.
Yeah, we started in 2022, and I had only been here maybe 4 or 5 months when we started talking about that, and I was just jumping in with both feet. We just had to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved how you mentioned the value proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think um, part of my job and part of the job of everybody who works here, whether they see it this way or not, is to sell the school, right? So we're selling our school to our families and to our students and to the community, but we're selling our school to the people that we employ every day. So when I'm speaking with prospective candidates about a position, I need to make sure that I'm touching base on why it's important that they choose us. We're in a place now in education where fewer and fewer people are going into education as a career. So my candidate pool inherently shrinks, as we have that change, and we have to make sure that we are offering the best environment to work, the best pay that we can, We have a lot of benefits to offer here at the school, and we are at an advantage because we are an independent school. So we have a little more flexibility with those things. And it's important to lean into that. And I think the pay scale has been just invaluable for the value prop for our teachers.
Excellent. Excellent. Um, let's turn to learning for a little bit.
Yeah.
And how do you measure the impact of learning on business outcomes? And are there any metrics or signals that matter to the senior leadership team?
Yeah, absolutely. This was a really fun question to think about. I think working at an educational institution, we are constantly talking about learning. Um, Obviously, over half of my employees, their job is to deliver education to students, but we also have a big piece of that um, as employees as well. We I'll answer this question in two parts. So I think first, when I think of the value prop to our families and our students, um, we absolutely market our numbers of faculty and staff who have advanced degrees. When you have somebody who has gone the extra mile to get a master's in their content area, or to get a PhD in their content area, you're going to have better buy-in from prospective families and students, and you're going to have an easier time saying, these faculty are the best and brightest that we have, and they are the experts in their fields. So I think from just a business standpoint, and from looking at our enrollment management process, marketing that to the community is really important. But on the employee side and kind of on the HR side, when you put time and investment into your people and what they're passionate about, you have more interest in having them grow in leadership positions. You have better buy in. You have them coming to you with programmatic ideas and curricular ideas and advancements to the organization. Um, so I think as a metric, we rely on very basic metrics like what our year-over-year turnover looks like and our time to hire. But more so than that, I think the signals are really important to pay attention to. So when I'm talking about any kind of training and development and professional development for our faculty and staff, I'm talking about those faculty and staff members who have come through our PD process, which I'm sure we'll get into later, and where they are now, and whether they've gotten a new certification, or whether they've you know been invested in and gone to a conference and then come to me and said, I want to be on a committee for our strategic plan, or I would love to grow into being a department leader for my content area. So those signals are really important, not just for those faculty and staff members, but also for the kind of culture and engagement that we have here. And when you have engaged faculty, and when you have faculty who feel supported in a culture, they are going to deliver the best education to our kids. So those are the things that I'm reporting back on to our senior leadership team and our other constituents and stakeholders is, here's what we're investing in our people, and here's the ROI on that. And while some of it isn't the easiest to quantify numerically, it is extremely easy to see in the effects on our students and on our committees and on our program development pieces.
Outstanding. And I'm glad you talked about some of those important development metrics.
Yeah, if you could say a little more, I'd be happy to elaborate.
Okay. Just the things like the certifications and the degrees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have, I believe our number off the top of my head is roughly upper 70s, 78% of our faculty and staff do have advanced degrees. And what we see with those advanced degrees in our employees is that ability to critically think outside of the box, to look at a program that might exist and say, how can I make this better? Or what might bring this above what the schools in our area are offering. Cincinnati is kind of a fascinating market for education. We have many, many private and independent competitive schools. Many children and students in the area tour for high schools like most of us toured for colleges. So it's
Mm,
really important from a competitive standpoint to have faculty and staff who are committed to the value prop of our students, and having the certifications in their back pocket to pull out and use is really proving to be effective for that. We have an aviation program in our upper school that would not exist if that faculty member did not go the extra mile to lean into something he was interested in and then bring that back to the school.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds like the summit's very committed to continuous improvement.
We are. We have a phenomenal professional development process in place. I'm happy to talk about that as much as we want because it is my favorite benefit to talk about to candidates across the school.
Well, let's talk about that for a couple minutes. I'm
Yeah, I'd
curious.
love to. Sure. So we are absolutely blessed to have this resource to us. And I think of all of the benefits, this is the one that everyone is most excited about. And they say, like, what a benefit, from a candidate standpoint. But we have endowed funds from our donor network that we are able to and along with some state funding that we get. But we are able to keep that in an account that we are able to then draw from to support our faculty and staff. So we have a pretty extensive application. So when somebody has a thought that they want to maybe go to a conference, for example, or look into a certification for something, there's an application that's super easily accessible to everybody in the organization. And they fill out that application. And what I love about the application is it asks, why are you interested in this? What do you want to do with this? But also, what are you bringing back to us? What is your goal? How are you going to implement what you're learning to bring that back? Because while it's so important to put time and money into your people, we are still a business and we are still a school, and we do have different initiatives and different goals that we want to meet as well. So we have employees fill out that application. They put in quotes. They have to go get, what are, if it's something they have to fly, what is the price of your airline ticket that you're looking at? What's the reimbursement total? So they go through that application. I can't off the top of my head think of a time we've denied somebody. We love when people use our PD funds. It is my favorite thing to report on. How many, conferences have we sent people to? I see employees that maybe aren't the most vocal. I see them filling out applications to go to like the American Montessori conference, for example. Our pre-K division is a Montessori school. So they want to go and they want to hear about trends in the Montessori philosophy. And I think that is fulfilling to me as an HR director, but also fulfilling to me as somebody who's working at the school and seeing people use the benefit that we are promoting to hire candidates. I've used the funds. I went to a conference in April of 2025 that was about futuristic thinking and the future of education. And I came back from that conference a different person, and I had different perspectives and ideas of things that we could use directly to help our faculty and staff achieve what they would like to do better. Um, we report back on those funds and how they've been used to the donors who donate to those funds. So that way, our donors feel like they're included in the community as well. We have every faculty and staff member just write a brief paragraph of what they learned and what their experience was like at these conferences. And then we can send those out to our donors who help supply us with the funds for this. And I think they absolutely love hearing about their funds being used. If they didn't want them to be used, they wouldn't donate them. So um, it's a really joyful part of my job to be able to access those funds for myself, but also give faculty and staff the okay to please fill out the application. Like if you want to go get your Montessori credential, please fill out the application. Somebody came across my office maybe 2 years ago about a conference that was directly related to a course they were hoping to teach, in the following year. And I said, go fill out the application. Please do this. And it's always an encouraged um, activity for them, and we are able to provide substitute teacher coverage for their classes so that way they don't have to worry about their kids while they're gone, because the other piece of education is it's not as flexible as other jobs. So
Mhm.
providing everything we can to allow them to take part in the benefit is the follow-up work. It's great if we offer the funds and the application, but if they don't feel that they can actually take the time off to use the benefit, it's not as effective. So we've really kind of gone that extra mile to say, if you want to go to this conference, we will make that happen for you. Or if you want to go get this certification, we will make that happen for you. And it's been a lovely experience that has brought me joy in this job.
And it seems like the summits in you have taken a lot of care to ensure that both human resources and employee learning are accessible and engaging and relevant across all the different teams and levels of the organization.
Yes, we absolutely. And I don't want to take full credit for any of that work. Our assistant head of school for academic affairs manages that application process and our funding for this. And she is the smartest person I know. And so she does a lot of work with this as well. It's definitely not all on me. But we have several teachers going to the American Montessori Conference next month. We have several independent school associations that hold annual conferences. And this year, actually, the Independent School Association for the Central States, so kind of like the Midwest, they had their annual conference in Indianapolis, so not too far. And we actually were able to send, I want to say, 30 to 40 faculty members to that conference, either for one or both days if they were interested and wanted to go. And that conference blew me away. It was absolutely invaluable to have so many people from independent schools in one place sharing ideas, networking. The main stage speakers were great. So I absolutely loved seeing all of our faculty that wanted to go be able to go, and then also to talk and to operate not in the same capacity that I see them in every day. It's a great opportunity that I think is taken for granted sometimes to get to know people authentically,
Mhm.
and take a step out of the business and get to know a little bit about your team and who they are and what they're interested in over dinner at a conference or in at your lunch in a session. And I think that there's just very few negative consequences, if any at all, to putting time and energy into learning and training and development.
It's a wonderful thing to be able to do, and it's got to be gratifying that, the summit does make not only the investment of the money, but the overall effort in just having such a high quality program.
Yes, and I mean, it is absolutely work intensive, like I said, for the person who kind of manages the application, and then we do get state funding, and managing all of that does not take a short amount of time by any means, but it is worth it time and time again to be able to see it used, and then to see somebody bring it back and put it into practice. I mean, that's a full circle moment for me, and for
Mhm.
everybody who kind of manages that program. And I think it's important because um, in the area a lot of the time I'm interviewing candidates, I'm doing my phone screens, and they're when I ask them what they know about the summit, it's never a trick question to see if they've read the website. I'm genuinely curious, and a lot of them say, well, I know it's very rigorous academically, and I want to make sure that as a teacher I'm doing everything I can. And my response to that is, while we are teaching and educating leaders of character, we have to be leaders of character. And part of that is that the administration has to support you in keeping up your education and keeping up with the best trends in education and keeping everybody kind of in the now on what the trends are for education. So we will support you in that journey if you deliver that to our children. And that's kind of I love talking about it on the phone with candidates because a lot of the response that I get is, I have never had an organization offer to pay to send me to a conference without asking, or have funds dedicated specifically for this resource. So it's a really phenomenally run and robust piece of the job.
That's great.
Yeah,
Um, well, let's turn to mandatory training for a few moments.
absolutely.
The fun of mandatory training, how do you balance that with,
I'll
the
spin it
needs
the best I can.
yeah. How do you balance the needs for mandatory training with the desire to, foster curiosity and self-directed learning?
Absolutely. And I think this is a piece that we have to talk about. Like, we have to talk about the mandatory pieces because, especially in education, the state does have requirements for our faculty members with licensure and with certifications. And all of those do have continuing education units, CEUs, as the Ohio Department of Education calls them. And you have to have a certain number of those to renew your license, and you have to keep up with those. And then in our other divisions, there may be a requirement for CPR and first aid, like something as basic as that. And while it's mandatory, those are usually not the fun ones, right? So it's harder to keep track of those and to get people inspired to do those. Um, so what I will say is, as I would hope all schools are doing, we do have in-service days during the year where the teachers are not delivering direct instruction to our students. And we have all school programming typically during those in-service days. And our division directors are really intentional with the programming of these as much as we can be. And we try to cover topics that would then be eligible to be submitted for a CEU for
Mhm.
our faculty. So if they are participating in the in-service days, which are part of their work day and they are required to be at school that day, they are then getting some of that mandatory training done, which is really important. What I will say is we had I mean, I would love to share our last in service if I could kind of go into
Sure.
that. Awesome. We had an in service day in February, and part of the all school programming was a a workshop, I'm going to call it, on interreligious dialogue. Now, the Summit Country Day School is an independent Catholic school. So our Catholicity is kind of a piece of who we are. We were founded by the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, and we have our Catholicity as a cornerstone of who we are as a school. But what's important to mention and what's important to talk about is we also have 16 other faith traditions observed by our students and families. So it is not just a Catholic school. We have to make sure that we are fostering inclusivity and curiosity around those things. So the in-service day that was planned around interreligious dialogue had a guest speaker who was a rabbi, and he spoke about his journey in faith and his journey in education. He was very much in the education system. And not only was it so engaging, and we had, breakout sessions and group discussions, and we were very intentionally placed at tables with people we don't typically work with, which I also love. I love
Mm.
forcing people out of their bubbles. Um, but it was so engaging and it was so refreshing. And we had a panel of parents, all from different faith traditions, speak to our faculty and staff about their journey at the summit as somebody who is not a Catholic family. And um, seeing the faculty engage in that was awesome. And it was majority of the day was this programming, and everybody was so energized at the end of it. And so the full circle moment is you enjoyed it. You got to hear different perspectives. You got to hear from real families and real parents whose kids are here that you're teaching every day. And to really hit it home, you get to use these for CEUs. So
There you
um,
go.
just trying to make it as interesting as and intentional as possible, while still trying to help them meet those requirements. Because we do ask a lot of our educators. We ask for time, we ask for attention, we ask for empathy, we ask for help, we ask them to do a lot for our kids. So if we can help try to cross that bridge, or bridge that gap rather, of the mandatory training and something interesting and intentional, we will do that. So we have several in-service days throughout the year that they are able to log the CEUs for. We also have SEED programming, which is a diversity, equity, and inclusion program for schools, and that is a week long cohort in the summer that our leadership team did last year, as well as a school year long program for our faculty, and that is worth CEUs as well. So we do try to offer different programming options for them to achieve that mandatory training requirement.
It's a very creative approach.
I genuinely, my mind has been blown working here. um, Again, coming from something operations heavy like hotel management, and walking into education, I truly feel that every day I leave and I'm like, something good happened today, and I think that's lovely. But just seeing the commitment and the intentionality and um, the work done every day by our administrative team and our teachers is just, it's beautiful. It really is.
Excellent. Um, well, here's one last question for you, and it's a fun one.
Yeah.
Let's say you could redesign HR from scratch. What would you do differently?
Oh, yeah. This is definitely a fun question. So there is like a saying out there, and you can like buy t-shirts with it and a mug and a tumbler, but it's that HR is the unofficial event planner and the office therapist and the X, the Y, the Z, and it goes on. And it's actually nothing to do in theory with human resources, but in reality, it has everything to do with human resources. And it's kind of the catch 22 of the job. But what I've found in all seriousness is that a lot of the time, the individuals working in the human resources function have actually had no training in human resources. And maybe they were on the finance team and they started covering for payroll, and then they got really good at payroll and they kind of get shoved in the door, and then they're the HR administrator and they're there to do benefit compliance and benefit administration and payroll, and while the administrative tasks of the job are critically important, human resources has to be viewed as a strategic business partner, because we are. To bring back my hotel days, there's a famous quote by J.W. Marriott, and he said, "Take care of our people, and they will take care of the guest." And that slogan, tagline, quote, whatever, has followed me through my career thus far and has proved nothing but to be true. If you are in manufacturing, if you are in education, if you are in hospitality management, whatever your organization industry lies, you have people making that happen. And if your people feel that they are taken care of, the buy in will be that much easier, and the service or the product that you are providing will be better. And I think we have to view the people function as a strategic plan and as a strategic partner. Um, I'm blessed to have a seat at our senior leadership team table. And I know a lot of colleagues of mine are not as lucky to have that seat.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that the actual training to to be able to use your function strategically is just critically important. Um, so I think training on how to have difficult conversations with people. A lot of my day is somebody coming in on their worst day, and I have to meet them where they're at and then figure out our next steps forward. A lot of my day is interpersonal work. You know, we have 170 full time staff and 246 total full-time equivalents, and not everybody gets along. I mean, that's just a fact of life. So it's about coaching, it's about advising people on how to manage their time, how to manage their attitude and actions, to be able to work cohesively with their teams. I think that requires a lot of emotional intelligence. Providing psychological safety has been kind of a hot topic in the world of HR since COVID. And I think that's because, unfortunately, the pandemic further proved the point that the people are kind of the backbone of what we're all doing. And so your
Mhm.
people have to feel heard and taken care of and invested in. Um, so I think just again, the training and development of an HR person before putting them into that role is critically important. But having the HR function already aligned with your senior leadership team or your C-suite or whatever the structure is, just is invaluable. There have been many projects that I have been able to partner on at the school that I do feel, without somebody speaking for the people, could have ended differently. And I'm not saying it would have been bad, but I think it was only better because our people were a voice. Um, and so if I could rebuild it from scratch, I would say, yes, you are kind of the office therapist and the office event planner and the office mediator, but with strategy, those roles can be a pivotal piece of an organization. And I'm really passionate about that. So I love that question. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, you're welcome. And, any closing thoughts for our audience?
I appreciate the time and energy that you put into our time today, and I'm so honored to have been asked to speak on these things. I'm really passionate about people, and I'm really passionate about education. Um, and I love these conversations, and I think it's absolutely phenomenal that there's a platform that's having these conversations so transparently and openly and accessible. So thank you so much, Bill.
Oh, you're welcome, Michaela. And thanks to everybody who watched and listened today. And I hope to see you again as we take another step on the perfect route.